Today is the day. The Vancouver Canucks are playing playoff hockey at Rogers Arena for the first time since 2015, baby! And I wanted to take a huge blast to the past, talk about things 9 years ago, and compare them to what they are today. This is your Vancouver Canucks past and present update, heading into Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Playoffs of Round 1's Vancouver-Nashville series. Let's get into it. So, the last time the Vancouver Canucks played the playoffs in Rogers Arena was in the 2014-15 season. The playoff bubble doesn't count. That wasn't in Rogers Arena, that was only in Edmonton, and the Canucks, I mean, they did well, but still. COVID season, play-in rounds, you could debate that the Canucks might not have made the playoffs that year had the season continued just regularly. But if we include the fans, we include Rogers Arena, it's the first time since 2014-15 the Canucks have playoff action. And if you want to go back to the last time we had ourselves a Game 1 in Rogers Arena, it was on this day, April 15th, 2015. The Vancouver Canucks versus the Calgary Flames Game 1, and this is what the lineup looked like. Here's an article from CalgaryHerald.com heading into that Game 1 9 years ago on April 15th. You can see the Calgary Flames lines: Johnny Gaudreau, Sean Monahan, Yuri Hudler, Sam Bennett, Mikhail Backlund, Joe Colborne, Michael Furlan, Matt Stajan, David Jones, Brandon Bolig, Marcus Granlund, and Josh Juris. Pairings, you've got Chris Russell, Dennis Weidman, TJ Brody, Derek Englund, David Schlemko, Corey Potter, Jonas Hiller, Kari Ramo, and then a few guys injured like Mark Giordano, Ladislav Smid, Rafael Diaz, Paul Byron, and Lance Boma. For the Vancouver Canucks, this was their lineup heading into that game. First line, you had Daniel Sedin, Henrik Sedin, and Alex Burrows. On the second line, Chris Higgins, who was recently just given a role with the team in a content creation role, so congrats, Chris, alongside of Nick Bonino and Radim Vrbata. Let's go, baby! That's a good one. Sean Mathias, Brad Richardson, and Derek Dorsett. And then you had Ronalds Kenins, Bo Horvat, and Yannick Hansen. Scratches included Lyndon Vay and Brad McMillan. Yeah, remember Brad McMillan? That guy exists. That's kind of funny. On defense pairings, you have Alex Edler with Chris Tanev. Yeah, that's the classic, baby. We love those. Dan Hamhuis and Yannick Weber. Yeah, the superior Weber who wore the number 6. He was on Vancouver for a bit. You gotta remember that. And Kevin Bieksa and Luca Spiza. Very interesting how they're listed as opposite-handednesses. I mean, Bieksa's a righty, Luca's a lefty. Did they really play switched like that? I don't remember. And then on scratches, you have Ryan Stanton on D. Goaltenders, you've got Eddie Lack and Ryan Miller. Injuries, Zach Kassian, who is out with a back injury. So this is our lineup. And just seeing things visualized on paper here, it's got all the emotions coming over me, man. Sedin, Burrows, that's the legendary line. Now, of course, we recognize that their better days were behind them. I mean, the Sedins had 100-point campaigns, Burrows was a 30-goal scorer, like 4 or 5 years before the 2015 season came and went. But at this point in time, the team had just traded away Ryan Kessler, they were going through a little bit of a slump, they were really bad in 2013-14, so in 14-15, that's when they signed Radim Vrbata as a free agent, and he did pretty well on this Canucks team in his first year. He was initially signed to play with the Sedins. They were all in the same age range, and there was some good chemistry to start out this season with that. Radim Vrbata finished off the 2014-15 season with 31 goals and 63 points in 79 games played. And it was interesting because Vrbata was the only Canucks 30-goal scorer we had until 2022. The team went 7 years without seeing another 30-goal score, and it was kind of, of a breakthrough, because in 2022 they had 3. We remember making all these videos about, oh, the Canucks are getting these 30-goal guys. First time since Radim Vrbata 7 years ago, because the next season in 2016, Radim Vrbata stopped producing points. But that was kind of when everybody at the Canucks stopped producing, to be fair. Vrbata had 63 points. The Sedins in 2014-15 had 70 each. Nick Bonino had 39 points in 75 games played. Really not great production for a second-line center, I'm not going to lie. Chris Higgins had 36 points in 77 games played. You see, this was the norm back then. The Sedins were some of the top point producers in the NHL in this season. So just taking a look at how far the league has gone from 2015 up until now, where now it's like a regular old second-liner can get 70 points. That point production metric is not reserved for the top guy on the team. It just goes to show how far the NHL has come and how much better players are at scoring goals. In terms of defense, you got Alex Edler, who led the team in points with 31. You can see Dan Hamhuis had 23 points over here too. A rookie, Bo Horvat, also suited up for the team and had 25 points in 68 games played. Yannick Weber had 21 points. He actually had a lot of points, not gonna lie. And then, if you scroll down to the goaltending, Eddie Lack had a .921 save percentage that year and a .245 goals against average. Ryan Miller had a .911 and a .253. I think he was hurt, which is why he didn't start out in the postseason, something like that. And then Jacob Markstrom, a rookie Jacob Markstrom, had an .879 save percentage in 3 games played. If you go back over to these lines, I mean, that bottom 6 was something to behold. Sean Mathias, Brad Richardson, and Derek Dorsett, there is a time where a lot of Canucks fans, in 2014 I want to say, were saying, yeah, no, this Canucks team has maybe the best bottom 6 in the NHL. Their third line is better than some other teams' first lines. There was a period where I think it was like Brad Richardson, Sean Mathias, and Mike Santorelli. Yeah, you remember Mike Santorelli? When they were one of the best lines in hockey, and they just kind of took over the headlines. I know that might not necessarily be this era of the team, but like that was still sort of floating around there. We're kind of seeing similar things now with the Vancouver Canucks, right? The third line being maybe better than the first line, who really knows? And then that fourth line, Ronnie Kenins, Bo Horvat, Jannik Hansen. Remember the hype on Ronalds Kenins? Yeah, he was this Latvian guy that the Canucks signed because Mark Crawford was his head coach in Switzerland, and they gave him an opportunity to develop in Utica. He was all right, that he came over to Vancouver and he had some instant chemistry with a rookie Bo Horvat, and everybody thought he'd be amazing, and then he fell off. I mean, we talked about this and more in the What Could Have Been video for Ronnie Kenins. Also, we did make a video initially when he left Vancouver and went over to Switzerland once again. Yeah, that just kind of shows how long I've been making YouTube videos for. Speaking about YouTube videos, though, if you go over onto this YouTube channel's history and go back to 2015 and you head over to April, you'll see a whole bunch of videos of me and my emo high school phase. These were the videos that we were making back in this time frame. Lots of Call of Duty stuff, The Last of Us, and philosophical life commentary from the ramblings of a 14-year-old guy who was in grade 9 in high school trying to find his place in the world. I'll admit there was some purple prose in these conversations, but I did have a few narrative essays and stuff that I wanted to share to the world, which is why I made these weird YouTube videos that didn't really talk about gaming. They just talked about philosophical life stuff. Yeah, it was kind of weird. And then later on into the playoffs, I'd make videos about Destiny and Call of Duty and GTA and stuff like that. So that was the channel back in this time frame. Look at that, 50 views a video, 20, 30 views a video. I've been making videos for a long time. But other parts of the Vancouver Canucks that we care about heading into the 2014-15 season, the Canucks had not drafted Brock Boeser yet. He was drafted later on in that 2015 NHL Draft. The best Canucks prospect they had heading into the playoffs against Calgary in 2015, it was Jake Virtanen, who was playing in the WHL and admittedly doing really well. The Canucks also had Jared McCann, of course, but then they famously traded him away for Eric Goodbranson because that totally was an amazing move to do. But either way, if you wanted to get your scoop as to what happened, the Canucks ended up losing Game 1 of the first round to the Calgary Flames. Bo Horvat scored the first goal of the entire playoffs. I'm pretty sure he backhanded it in the slot off of some Calgary guy's skate, assisted by Jannik Hansen and Alex Edler, and then in the third period, that's when the Flames started to come back. Michael Furland assisted on David Jones' first goal, and then Chris Russell scored a little bit later at the end of the game, actually, to give the Flames the lead 2-1 and eventually win that game. But as the series went on, the Canucks won Game 2 4-1. They then lost Game 3 4-2. They lost Game 4 3-1. Won Game 5 2-1 to keep their playoff hopes alive. And then they lost 7-4 in Calgary to lose the series in 6 games. Brandon McMillan, Jannik Hansen, and Radim Vrbata started out the scoring in that game. The the Canucks were up 3-1. And then in the third period, the Calgary Flames absolutely came alive after tying the game up. Yeah, that was a bad memory, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as to where you were 9 years ago when the Canucks were last in the Stanley Cup Playoffs in Rogers Arena. What are your expectations for this time around against Nashville, and what do you think is going to happen? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.